Okay, we're ready to start. Please join your palms, bow. Recitation of the four great vows. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. Welcome to you all. We're going to talk about the Buddha Nature Treatise, but before we get there, we're going to visit one of my favorite Chan masters, Master Ling Chi. And I think with Master Ling Chi's instructions, it will help us try to understand the Buddha Nature Treatise a little bit. We're just going to kind of brush through the Buddha Nature Treatise, but just to kind of give you a feel for what you're practicing. So we start with first Master Ling Chi, and if you can post the part up there, Sent, I'd appreciate it. Actually, since I did this, I added a few more colors, which you won't see there. And here in this part, it's right in the middle of the page 1332. You will see that if you can, there, thank you. It says venerables, and he's referring to the monastics from his temple. And he says, you bustle along going to various regions. What are you looking for? What are you looking for? This is very practical. And as a matter of fact, what are you looking for? It's very interesting because sometimes when I go to retreats, I'll be going to a retreat next week. I ask the people, what are you doing on the cushion? What are you meditating on? What is the purpose of your meditation? If you don't know what you're doing on the cushion, why are you on the cushion? I tell them, get off the cushion, go home until you find out what you're supposed to be doing on that cushion. What good is it? Are you there, like Master Sheng says, to practice your legs and practice how long you can sit cross-legged? Or is there something more important there? And this is the same kind of an attitude here that Master Ling Chi points it back to the persons and says, what are you doing? What is your practice? What are you searching for? And so he's saying this in a very interesting way, very matter of fact, that the good news that he says to you is just this very mind, is the Buddha mind. What are we missing about that? And that's why his attitude here, what are you looking at? What are you missing from all of the lectures I have given you that you don't know that just this mind that's listening right now, this very mind, is the Buddha mind? And yet you go all over the place to try to find it. So then he says, the soles of your feet have gotten as wide as planks from tramping about, traveling on foot far and wide in search of a teacher and a realization. I've encountered many, many students. They're always going from one teacher to another teacher to another. And this realization and this one and that one, trying to seek something that they don't have, trying to get something or lose something. Chan and the practice of Buddhism is very easy. This very mind is the Buddha mind. We start from the premise. You are already a victor. You already have the fruit that you're seeking. But yet you continue to seek. There is no Buddha that ought to be sought, no way that ought to be completed, no Dharma that ought to be attained, nothing to do. And if you remember Master Shen Yang's death poem, busy doing nothing. Or have you heard the man of the Tao in the Chanpong with nothing to do? It is in this way. We don't take the time to contemplate those statements. What are we doing? We just gather them up like a librarian and haul out these witty statements that we can say to others. The wind moves, the flag moves, your mind moves. We use these in some way without thinking of what is uh, um, sacred or profane, good or evil. What is that? What is that mind? And we're thinking, what is that mind? It didn't say for you to think about that. Hui Ning was saying to you, without thinking, not without thinking of this is good and without thinking this is bad. He was saying, contemplate. We miss that. And many teachers themselves, when they present this, they miss that. And they mislead the people. Because then they think that there's something to think about this good and evil, but it wasn't that way. The reason I'm telling you this is so that you know that you are in the right spot, that this is what you need to hear, you just need to practice it. You need to contemplate it. And so when you can practice in this way, it will pay off for you. This is Master Ling Chi, and I really identify with him by understanding his heart, this Buddha heart that he wants to present and tell you, you're already a prize winner. What are you missing? So then he continues. Externally, seeking the Buddha with characteristics, a Nirmanakaya Buddha adorned with the 32 characteristics, a Buddha made of clay or wood, he will not resemble you. The true Buddha of your own mind, that one person, there's a lot there when we look at this. And he's saying to you, externally, if you're seeking, externally means that you're searching far and wide. I want to find the teacher that can bring me to this realization. I want this realization. And Ling Chi saying, just as mind is the Buddha, what more could you seek? You cannot seek inside or seek outside, especially seeking externally. And this is consistent with the Diamond Sutra that says the Buddha cannot be known by the 32 marks. And there are sutras that talk about the 32 marks of the Buddha. And in some ways, people take that and they mess it all up, because then we're on the search for the Buddha, someone with a wand symbol, curly knot hair, pearlescent skin, all these different features, the long earlobes. I think about the only one I've got of the Buddha is maybe the long earlobes. Forget the curly knot hair. Maybe I can identify with Milafo. But in any case, the thing is that Ling Chi saying what I always say, you cannot find the Buddha that way. Don't go looking in the firmament, in the cosmos, for a Buddha, and then you're traveling like the Monkey King, Sharon Kong, and you're traveling and think you're going to run into the Buddha. There is no person. That's why they talked about here the Nirmanakaya Buddha. Nirmanakaya of the Trikaya of Dharmakaya, Sambhokaya, Nirmanakaya. Nirmanakaya means an appearance body. That a Buddha takes on an appearance, in order to transmit the Dharma. So it is kind of sort of like a body of a human being, but with the idea that this body is just an appearance body. And you're saying, don't be looking for this appearance body. And he talks about it being made of clay or wood. And the reason that he does that is because the statues that we have on our altar are renditions of artist conceptions based on the sutras of what a Buddha or a Bodhisattva should look like. So we have Wei To, a very fierce warrior, Guang Gong with the red face, very fierce Dharma protector as well. Dizan Pusa, Guanxin Pusa, very serene, compassionate. Um, Amitabha Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, they're all based on what is said in the sutras as they appear. But we cannot take that, um, a copy of that, of clay or wood, and try to find a Buddha that resembles that. That's why I say don't look for it that way. Don't look for it from the idea of samsara. This is very important admonitions that Master Ling Chi is giving here. He says, if you want to know your original mind, the true person, and this is very interesting because they talk about it in a way of anthropomorphizing, in some way, the idea of a true person so that it doesn't get lost too much in there. There isn't really a self, as Shakyamuni Buddha indicated. It's not self, but it is the self nature of mind. This is different. There's a distinguishment there where one is self or no self is dualistic. The one of the self nature of mind is not dualistic because the self nature of mind connotes that everything belongs to mind. If everything belongs to mind, then everything is fundamentally empty. And we'll get into that in a moment. It's not something outside of that you can join up with, nor is it something you can ever be apart from. You cannot, I lost my true person. I don't know where it's at. No, I just can't find it. And you don't know where it's at. There was once when I was going to go to work and I was very pressed for time and I was picking up all the things I had to take to my car and I had my keys and then the next moment I didn't have my keys, so I was looking through the whole house trying to find my car keys. I said I lost them, but I said I cannot have lost them because I just had them. I just don't know where they're at. But how can I say I lost them? And just in that moment when I said that, then I realized I was mumbling and I had actually put the keys, I was holding the keys in on my lips. And I had completely forgotten that I had done that. Now this is kind of a stupid thing, right? But it indicates how stupid we are in the sense that we, as Master Ling Chi says, cut off our head and then proceed to look for our head. And we don't have to do that. Chan and Buddhism is very easy as long as we see it in the right way. If we see it in the right way, it works very well. When we don't, then it makes it difficult because we're constantly in a search for some kind of tranquility or some kind of an understanding. We don't need to do that. We just have to have faith in mind, faith in the Buddha, faith in the Dharma, and faith in ourselves. So he says, if you want to know your original mind, the true person, it's not something outside of you. You can join. Okay, I'm sorry, I read that part already. It says stream enters. The true Buddha, everyone's Dharmakaya Buddha, has no form. So now he's referring to one of the other Trikaya, which is the Dharmakaya. And this is the mind ground or the Buddha ground, the Dharmadhatu. And in this Dharmadhatu, he's saying it does not have a form. Even though things which appear to have a form are not separate from it, they're not identical to it, yet but they can only appear in mind. So this aspect, when we look at it and we say, oh, here is a cell phone, is a cell phone then mind or not? It's phenomenal. It belongs to mind, but we cannot have the cell phone unless we start punching buttons. We cannot have the cell phones preach the Dharma to us. It doesn't have that ability to independently teach that. But nevertheless, mind can realize and can present the Dharma. It's a different, because that's our self nature of mind. The true way has no substance, no dharma, no characteristics. These three dharmas above fuse together as a single seamless place, a single non-dependent true person. And again, they're using the term person very loosely here. It's not necessarily as it appears, that there is a person. It's not a life and being, an ego, a personality, a higher level of person. We use the term person because we can't talk about it in any other way. Well, is it a ghost? Is it this or is it that? Is it no? It's just mind, but it is very mind, very consciousness that we use now, but it's fundamentally empty. And here, Master Ling Chi is fusing together all of the concepts of Mahayana practice from Yogacara school of the consciousness, and from the Madhyamika school of this emptiness of things, and the Tathagata Garbha, which is our own true nature, Buddha nature. So this is the richness of Chan masters and how they're presenting things, and their ability to present it in a very simplified way. One of the things that I saw about Master Shen was his ability to present things that were very profound in a very simple way. People thought, oh, this is simple. They only understood the beginning level, but he was actually presenting on many levels, just depending on the person whether or not they were able to receive the training or not. So then he says, those who haven't been able to perceive. Now this is very interesting because there's this word perceive here, and so this is in the second to the last line. Those who haven't been able to perceive, and it says the single seamless place. So the perception here is important, because this is not the perception of the five skandha, but is the perception of mind. And he says, we perceive what is called transmigrating sentient beings of confused karmic consciousness. You could call it karmic consciousness. So he's saying those who are unable to perceive mind. And perceiving mind here is just simply the utilization of mind in an unobstructed way, in a clear way. It is not a separate mind from the mind that you think is your deluded mind. Your deluded mind is the very nature of mind itself, and the causes and conditions appearing there are appearing in accordance with Pratika Samappada. Causes and conditions never fail. It's the same mind. This mind that you're listening to now, this very mind is the Buddha mind. But we don't perceive it because we have not turned the mind's eye inward. Turning the mind's eye inward towards what is appearing in mind. We turn it out and we start looking at everything, and we become confused thinking that there is a knower and an unknown, but in a dualistic way of subject and object. The perception of mind also sees things in this way, but the knower is not other than mind itself. It is in the way that you would know your feet. Now, not too many people in your life know intimately what your feet look like, right? Just think about it. Are they nice looking feet, or are they all twisted? Do they have calluses on them? We don't know, but you know. You know why? Because they belong to your body. How could mind and the Dharmakaya, the Dharma body, not know its own body? It doesn't have to think about it. It is aware of it. And this is the difference, is that when we're using this awareness, we are no longer caught up in this transmigrating sentient beings that are confused with this karmic consciousness, because there is no transmigration of souls, nobody that's there. And it's this very Master Ling Chi, who said it well. He said that for 12 years now, I've been searching for this thing called karma. And I've never been able to encounter not even a bit of it the size of a mustard seed. Now, he's presenting this from the perception of mind, not from the perception of a sentient being. And as a result of that, in the sentient being, the karma applies to them. But when there is the proper perception, mind is in harmony with its own body. And its own body also presents pratika samapada, causes and conditions. Whatever appears does not appear as some kind of an evil aberration or a positive appearance. It appears in accordance with causes and conditions. Thus, there is a choice here, a true choice, rather than some kind of a divine plan that you have to act out your part. And then when you're born, they give you a script and they go, Gilbert, here's your script. You know, you're going to go to this kindergarten. You're going to do this. You're going to get in an accident. Sorry, you're going to get in an accident here. Then you're going to get in an accident. Then you're going to do this. You're going to go to school and whatever, and not just play out your part. It isn't in this way. There's no divine plan, no God willing. Everything that's there is mine. And the causes and conditions, and of all philosophical beliefs or religious beliefs, Buddhism comes the closest to saying, whatever you put in, you get out. That's a good thing. That's good because you have a choice. You can try to do your best to do this. If whatever happens, you know, you've exhausted your good karma, then the bad karma comes. If your bad karma is exhausted, then your good karma comes. Knowing full well that all that is just simply operating in the samsara, in the dream. But mind itself has never been tainted, never been unpure, never been pure in the samsaric sense. It is universally pure by its own self-nature. We cannot understand that because we are always judging it from the idea of the samsara. So kind of looking at the time and doing this, and I feel like I went through this way too fast. Just this small paragraph, but I wanted to get to another part, but it's going to be a little bit of a switch. So let's get to where we were going, and Seth, if you can put that up. And this is from the book Sally B. King, Buddha Nature. So I want to give her credit because this was done in 1991. But it's a very well thought out scholarly book, and it has a wealth of knowledge and comparisons of all the things that were going on philosophically and historically when all of this was happening. The players that are there. If you read this book, you can't see it, but if you read this book, you'll find that it is something that can really help you a lot. Don't think it's going to give up its wealth right away. It's going to give up a lot. You're going to get a lot out of it, but don't think that you've really plumbed the bottom of the wisdom that's here. There's layers and layers of wisdom as it connects all of the sutras that were going on during this time period, all the philosophies, and bringing you to this idea of Buddha nature. It's very, very important for us because Buddha nature is that which um, is, I would say, at this point in Buddhist um, training and thought and practice, is at the high water mark of the practice of seeing, going from the idea of, okay, the building's burning, I got to get out of here, hasta la vista, I'm gone, and blowing out the light, which is a Theravadan concept of reaching nirvana, to the idea of Mahaprajna Paramitas and seeing things that were empty and looking at that or consciousness only from the Yogacara school. Those two schools of Madhyamaka and Yogacara are not opposed to each other. They're simply approaching it from different ways. One of them philosophical, the other one is practice and looking into it. But they're compatible and they complement each other. From there to the Buddha nature and the Tathagata Garbha Sutras, which fleshed out this all important aspect of wisdom and compassion that's there, and how the wisdom produces this incredible unbridled compassion, and that there's something there. It's not this emptiness that is uh, simply empty of all things. It is the opposite. The emptiness, we could say, is the inclusiveness of everything and doing that. So let's get to this part. And you go ahead and post it up the first page, please, Santa. We'll go through that part fairly quickly. So starting with the retrospective summary of the text, and this is towards the end of the book, and it's going through and saying that the Buddha Nature Treatise at the very end of it was giving you a reprise of what you had learned and showing you how this fits. So move up to the bottom, move down, I guess. All right, there, retrospective, there we go. And it says, reading her text, the author gives us a summary of his teaching in a tidy form of 4 meanings of Buddha nature. So it's very interesting because it's trying to give you various aspects of the ways to look at Buddha nature. And it says, which in turn serve as correctives or teachings appropriate for the 4 classes of persons. So what it's saying is, you're going to get this, and we're presenting this on 4 different levels. So So you have a chance of understanding it. You may be able to understand the first level, not the second level or the third or the fourth, or maybe the first and second, and then you're working on the others. Or simultaneously, you can understand all of them, or real, I should say, rather than understand, realize. So then it says the first meaning of Buddha nature is its inseparability from all Buddha dharmas, both before and after realization. And here the term Buddha dharmas is one towards the Buddha nature attributes of mind. And so it's saying that these are all inseparable from mind. And so all of these things are connected before and after realization, saying that you are learning this, you are learning that they're inseparable. That's before, and after there is the experiential realization of this, which is important because it's your first step. When you understand everything returns to mind. So if everything returns to the one returns to mind. And it is in this way. And so it is our starting point, but it's a darn good starting point to start from. We're clear about this. We're clear that everything is mine. So there's really nothing that can be taught. We just have to realize everything is mine. So then it says the Buddha dharmas are numberless meritorious qualities of the Buddha nature or the Dharmakaya. So it's telling you and fleshing out these qualities that distinguish this Buddha nature from a nihilistic viewpoint or a confusion that people might have had an erroneous idea of Nagarjuna's Madhyamika school, or the middle way where it says neither existent nor non-existent, or the two truths, and trying to skew it over towards a nihilistic way of doing it. And the other side is eternal, that everything stays the same. But we know that doesn't work. And that was Nagarjuna's and the Mahayanas that were poking at the Theravadan and saying, no, it isn't in this way. Everything cannot be real, because if it's real, it can never change. But obviously, it changes. But then they look at it and say, if everything's changing, then it's meaningless. No, it isn't meaningless, because this is where the Buddha nature comes into play. I know this is not necessarily something easy, but stay with it. You can do this. You hang in there. Little by little, as you learn this more, it will become, I hate to say second nature, because that's totally a misnomer. But you'll feel more comfortable with it. Okay. Okay. So we continue. Um, the text states that, and then referring to the Buddha Nature Treatise, that because the Buddha Dharmas, the Tathagata Garbha, is not empty, and being not empty indicates an inherent presence of Buddha Dharmas. And so this is the final part of the first step, which is saying it's not empty in the sense that there's nothing there. It is empty in the sense because of this emptiness, that everything is connected, everything is within the Tathagata Garbha, and these Buddha dharmas are present. That's why they say indicates the inherent presence of that. And that is where even the Heart Sutra was pointing to, saying there's this inherent presence when one realizes, or the state of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, this unexcelled wisdom, that the mind is in is realized, it's clarified that there is nothing that has been added or taken away. There's no confusion. There's no reward in a samsaric sense. It is just simply the clarification of the mind to see that the mind is ultimately pure, and there is this Buddha nature that's there. Now, so then we get to the next part, the second meaning, and be ready to turn the page, please. That means the Buddha nature is this nature under all conditions is thus. So we run into the term thus. So now we're dealing with the Tathagata and the Tathagata Garba, this thus come one. And so it says, and if you can lift the page up a little bit, please. This is because all phenomena lack own nature. So this is the thing. Sometimes I'll talk about it as swabhava, meaning swabhava means its own consciousness or its own nature. And so the all phenomena, which is not separate from mind, it is created by mind, but it is dependent upon mind in its creation, lasting, and extinguishment. All of those things all happen within mind. As they happen within mind, they're not really guided by a temporal or a spatial validity. Let me explain that. Whether they come or they go, there's no place that they come and they go. That time is only relative to samsaric occurrences, but all of those things are retained within mind. It's as if you could play it back, you could play back mind, and you could see exactly how it was from 2,000 years ago or 2,000 years into the future. All of those things are already possessed in mind, not necessarily a fait accompli, that they're already done, but the potentialities of them are all there. It's a very interesting way because we cannot think about it in this way from our viewpoint. But seeing things as they are, it is why in the Diamond Sutra, the Dipankara Buddha predicted that Shakyamuni Buddha would become a Buddha in another lifetime because that was already within mind and realized. If we try to gauge it with samsaric temporal time measurements, we cannot do that. When they talk about Milafo, a Maitreya coming as the next Buddha, well, when is that? Do we set our clock to that and say, oh, he's due now. He's got to be coming right now. We cannot do that. We don't know because that's a different kind of events. The events will be there in due time, but it's hard for us to hold on to those. So that is because everything has this thusness. So it says, that is, the emptiness of all things is their thusness, and vice versa. The Buddha nature is found in this condition, which is universal. So it's saying universal to all things, temporally for time and spatially for locality. And again, when we go back and we look at Manjusri and where the dwelling place of Manjusri, and the dwelling place of Manjusri can only be considered to be mind without any dwelling in any location or non-dwelling in any location in mind. It is a different language. It's a different way of looking at things. It is like if we had looked at Euclidean geometry from 2,000 years ago or whenever it started, and we look at the complex computer programs now, we cannot use that geometry to decipher these complex computer programs. They're not, they do not have that ability to do that. And imagine in 50 years what the computer programs would be. The computer program, not 50 years, 500 years, would not, we'd not be able to do that. Heck, I have some laptops that I don't think they could function. I could turn them on and stuff, but they wouldn't be able to communicate with anything because they're too old. They would be looking for an AOL connection. But in mine has all of this already. I don't know if Michael's here, but it's very interesting. I ran into a YouTube program about the universe, and they were saying, there was a very well known. I think he's Japanese. Um, uh, Quantum physicist or astrology, not astronomer, and he was saying that they looked into it and they found that it could be that time doesn't exist. And I thought, oh, really? That's kind of interesting because back 2,000 years ago, Nagarjuna had already figured that part out. In terms of that there's no time and there's no space. Um, and and so it's an interesting thing because it Buddha Dharma is not progressive in that way. Um, it is just it is just the way we see things. We try to measure things from the samsaric side, but just imagine that this mind that you were using was there before this cosmos was created. Imagine that. And it's kind of interesting because now the QM or the quantum mechanics um, practitioners, they're questioning whether or not there was a Big Bang. They're going, the universe is not acting like a Big Bang. It's very, very strange. And so when we look at things, it is we have to look at them from a different way. And the only way to do that, and actually in this program, they were saying that the quantum physicists were the only ones that were able to kind of get a handle on this because they think outside the box. And it's this in which, and when we practice, that we have to think outside the box. We cannot think within samsara. Thinking in samsara, we're limited to samsara. If we want to be good in samsara, we can be great in samsara, but we cannot get out of samsara. We're just really good at being a samsaric resident. Okay, so we continue on. Third, Buddha nature has nothing to do with false thoughts or inverted teachings. So has nothing to do with erroneous ideas, everything is real, or inverted teachings that if you practice this way and you do this, you're going to get an award at the end of all of that, and you're going to do that. Mahayanists say originally there's nothing there. Originally there was no mirror nor mirror stand bright. Where was there any place for dust to alight? What are we missing? What are we missing with that? Yet we want to hold on to these ideas of the 37 factors of enlightenment, the paramitas, the Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths, all these. I'm not saying that you should not practice them. Practicing them presents you with a clear mind, but if we practice those for the virtue of obtaining something outside of ourselves, it's erroneous. It's an inverted view. So we practice, but we practice simply to stabilize the mind, to enable us to be able to allow the wisdom, this inherent wisdom, to come out and to do it in such a way that, like Han Shan said, you derive power from your own power, the inherent power of mind, not the power of you as a samsaric individual, but the very fact that the mind that you're using is the Buddha mind. We have no idea how powerful that mind is. If we tune into it, it will work. And that's what this third level is talking about. So then it says, the fourth, the original nature, the Buddha nature, is still. Still here is explained as a meaning neither produced nor destroyed. So this is important. So when we look at this and we see the stillness, it's not easy for us to understand that. It's not easy for us to say, how is this still? So if we snapped our fingers, was there any movement? The body, you could say, move, but did it really move? Was anything changed? Was anything added? Anything subtracted to it? It is just still, even though the body demonstrates things. In that moment, it's demonstrating the inconceivable. We don't understand that. We see movement, but it isn't movement. And yet that movement is not separate from mind. It is inherently still, even if it's moving. Why? Because it belongs to mind and nowhere else. There is no sentient being there. This is the idea, and we were talking about this last week, of Hui Ning and saying, does the flag move or does the wind move it? And Hui Ning came in and said, your minds are moving, and everybody's going, ha ha ha, that your mind's moving, you always are running around in this way. No, he is saying it very, very clearly. He's saying the mind is moving in accordance with pratika samapada, causes and conditions, but it is nevertheless still, because that movement is only the movement of mind, fundamentally empty, so it's still. This is not easy for us to understand. So I got through the beginning of that, and we're not going to get to the rest of it. But I think this is a good place to stop, because then the next part goes into a further discussion of what we're going to be talking about. So you're going to have to wait, and I will talk about that. We'll take our time. There's no reason to rush to get to the next page or the next sutra or the next master or whatever. Take your time. It's better for you to look at things and then study. So you study the history of Buddhism, the development of it, what was coming up, what was there, what came into, let's say, China, and the sinification of Buddhism, this changing of Buddhism in a Chinese way that melded already indigenous practices of Confucianism and Taoism, and used those as a supporting platform for Chan Buddhism, as well as still bringing in the Indic aspect, from India, all of these things that were coming in, and putting them all together and into a very, very neat and concise package. The thing about Chinese Buddhism is they had the luxury of that all of these things were relatively coming in around the same time period. Now, there's give or take a couple of 100 years, but there was a condensation of the development period of Buddha Dharma from the Indic side into China. And so they were able to put these things side by side. Theravadan, Pure Land school. Pure Land was very, very big for a long time in China. And then the Madhyamaka school, the Yogacara school, and those schools then bred the Tiantai school, the Huayan school there, and even Neo-Confucianism that came afterwards that was essentially perfumed by what the Chan Buddhism was presenting. So all of these things are all coming in. The Chan masters at this point are receiving all this information and putting it together, and they were well read. And that's reflected in their writings and in their practices. That's why I studied Chan Buddhism, because of all of this, it is served as a funnel of this incredible philosophy, incredible faith, incredible practice. You can't go wrong with it. It will explain to you your next breath, your next thought. So we'll stop there for the night, and we'll pick it up the next time, but I will entertain questions now. Thank you very much. Yes, Ian, go ahead.
So it just so happens that I am working through, I can't, it's either my fourth or my fifth time of Sally B. King's Buddha Nature Treatise. So mine's got even more marks in it than yours does right now. But there was one part in there that I think is just it's very worthy of bringing up, and I'd like to hear your take on it. One part it talks about the difference between karuna and maha karuna. So then the maha karuna is definitely superior because karuna just it doesn't necessarily generate action the way that maha karuna does. But the thing that besides that, which distinguishes this Maha Karuna, is the wisdom or the prajna that is involved is worldly wisdom. So I just wanted to hear your take on that.
Yeah, very interesting. First, we should define the term karuna. Actually, those terms were sourced from in the Abhidharma. They came in as the first definition before that was metta, loving kindness. And so we would have this idea, and this is a great question here. And we have the idea of this loving kindness that we we care. We care about the environment. We care about people. We care about sentient beings. We care about what we're leaving. Um, and so that is a metta, and you already know my pet peeve about metas. People use it to sign off on and say meta, meta this, meta that. It was very popular just to say that. And I'm saying you don't even have an idea what meta really means. And but the only reason I mention that is just simply because it's something that it's very profound and it's a precursor to karuna. And karuna is this interest in the suffering of others. So in this karuna, when we practice, as we practice in the Mahayana version, then we begin to understand a second level, a metaphysical level of karuna by virtue of the Prajnaparamita Sutras, and in particular the Heart Sutra, where we have this idea of this compassion. And in this compassion is exhibited this karuna, but there's a distinction there, which is one where there is worldly compassion and unbridled compassion. And the Heart Sutra is representing unbridled compassion as evidenced by the Mahabodhisattva Avalokitesvara presenting this. So that's where we get the difference with Mahakaruna. The Mahakaruna is this unlimited compassion of this Buddha Dharmas, as we were talking about, in this, that it's there. This is something that is inherent or intrinsic in mind. We use compassion and we practice compassion, but as we begin to practice, we begin to explore, contemplate compassion. We cannot think of compassion and think about it and say, oh, I'm going to think about doing this, or I'm going to think about transferring merit. It comes from the heart. There's no thought there. It is a demonstration. That's why they were talking about the one sutra, the demonstration of the inconceivable state of Buddhahood. We cannot talk about it. Villamakriti let us know that. We cannot say anything about it, but it can be demonstrated. And this Mahakaruna is something that we align mind with that. It is not something that comes into mind. It is that we're, to change the term mind, we are mining what is already our nature. We're pulling that out, and it is being demonstrated by the action. This is why we have another Mahabodhisattva, Samantabhadra, and Samantabhadra is representative of action. And so Samantabhadra, in terms of this, is reflecting this unbridled action, a demonstration of compassion. And so if we were going to search and say, oh, I'm going to go find Avalokitesvara, I'm going to find Manjusri, I'm going to find this, we will find iterations within mind, but they're imaginings. They are simply representations of the Buddha nature or the true nature. And when we allow the mind this unbridled compassion, it's not easy. It's not easy by any stretch. Compassion by itself, some people, because of causes and conditions, they have a very soft and good heart. This is the heart of karuna. Mahakaruna is one that is a cultivation via contemplation and alignment of mind with mind. Not that you align yourself with mind, but that idea of the individual self, ego, personality, or life and being is jettisoned as conceptual. And you allow yourself to contemplate. You allow yourself to join with what is already joined. Not easy to explain that, but it's just simply making sure that the mind is clear, moment to moment to moment. Mind, not your mind, not your mind. Mahakaruna is the province of mind itself, not the province of someone seeking to become a great compassionate being. It is already indigenous within mind itself, intrinsic with it. And so this requires practice. it can be done, and it can be very effective. Um, I am not saying I have Mahakaruna, but I understand that in order to practice in this way, we have to let go of the idea of the an ego or personality or a life or being, and simply just allow mind to be mind. So that's the difference. So hopefully that helped you. Okay. It's actually a very good question. It's something I've been working on. So you're in line, aligning with mine with that. It, come on, anybody else? Yes, Renee.
Hi, Gilbert. Thank you for another great teaching. And my question is, I found I is everywhere, everything, and but
Wait, what I are you talking about? EYE or I?
the ego. So
Ego. Okay.
yeah, it's everywhere. It's like on everything. Everything I hear, I see. Yeah, everything is the I, the ego. I know this is all my things. It's all my mind. But I know this is my understanding of the world. The I is so limited. But the issue is, I rationally I understand this, and I did say this. But my action, I believe this right away. I trust the ego, the I. Rationally, or sometimes I see it's all my mind, it's all I. But I just believe, and my action is belief. And I think, yeah, if like I see something as someone, I right away I have the conclusion about this guy, and this is I use my own filter, just I mentioned the last time. But yeah, I believe this right away, and I think my conclusion is right. So how to solve this issue?
This is good news. This is very, very good news. Master Shen Shifu used to say, to eradicate mind, eradicate ego or self, one must know self. So, so this is important, Renee, because this is what I always say to people when they're in a retreat and the ego appears, and I say, now you've got a chance. It's a fair fight because you can see the ego. You can, when you see the ego arising, you realize it wasn't there a moment ago, but now it's attaching to something. And so you see it as some kind of a something that's not necessary there. It's like pork belly in U.S. politics where they want to pass some kind of legislation and some person adds another amendment to whatever the motion is so that they can provide something for their interest. And it doesn't need to be there. It's just attaching to that, and it's being dragged through the legislature, but it doesn't really work that good because maybe there's other people that don't want that to be there because it's a self-interest. It is what in the Yogacara schools they talk about, that these are bija seeds that perfume the present moment, perfume the consciousness, and change what's there and modify it in a sense of putting the ego onto it or a self-interest on there. When we see that, when we see that it wasn't there and now it's there, it's a fair fight. We can fight it because it's out in the open. If it's hiding in the bushes, we can't see it. But because of your sincerity of your practice, now you can see it. This is good. This is really, really good because now you see it. Now you have a choice, moment to moment to moment. You don't give it any kind of mind attention or mind energy, so it dries up. So this is good, but this is the product of doing it in the right way. So sometimes the people, they get so frustrated. They go to the retreats and they go, I can't stop thinking. All these things are coming up. I go, that's so good. That's great. What are you missing? What do you mean what I'm missing? I can't think. I have seen so many thoughts. It's the very fact that you're practicing sincerely that you realize how many thousands of thoughts come up in a single moment. You never realized that before. You just took that to be yourself. But now you look at it and go, I don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need this. If I'm thirsty, I'm thirsty. If I'm thirsty, I get a drink. I don't have to think, oh, I need a cool water or a 7 Up or I need this or whatever. You just take care of whatever it is and you follow the function rather than doing that or saying, no, I'm really, really, really thirsty. So it doesn't affect you in that way. So that's good. It's good. A lot of times people get confused about that, but you're on your way. So I give you an A+ in that. It's not that the self is always there. It's just now you realize that it's always there. And so it doesn't have to be. You choose to simply don't give it any mind attention and it will dissipate on its own. Okay? Good job. Yes, Veishan.
阿弥陀佛。Ian's question triggered something in me, and I want to present my take on Ian's question between Karuna and the Maha Karuna, because these two terms reminds me of 2 sutras. One is the Huayan Jing, the Avatamsaka Sutra, and the other one is the Lotus Sutra. I want to equal the Karuna to Huayan Jing Avatamsaka Sutra and the Maha Karuna to Lotus Sutra, meaning the Karuna is a pure compassion from great Bodhisattvas and Buddha, and the Maha Karuna includes everything. Doesn't matter it's conventional or with the eye, anything that's in line with the Karuna is considered part of the Maha Karuna or a part of the mind. Basically, that's what I want to say. I want to see what I'm trying to be brave, and I want to see is this analogy, a comparison, proper?
It's good for you to be a warrior, a fearless warrior, and to offer your head. It's the way to practice, and you also are obtaining merit by asking questions or elaborating on questions that others have. That's important. And so everybody who asks questions to me, I think they're bodhisattvas because of that. There's no way where I would want to belittle somebody, by them asking a question. The idea of Maha and Karuna and Karuna is one that I don't know if we can make a distinction between the Lotus Sutra and the Vatamsaka Sutra. They're both Vayapula sutras. They contain the essence of Mahayana theory and philosophy and practice. It is one that, as I've mentioned before, the different levels of practice, where one level is like Shravakan sound hearers, and then the other one is ones where you can it's just kind of basic cable, and then another one is the wisdom of samsara, worldly wisdom, and that is what we are initially introduced to when we read the Heart Sutra or the Diamond Sutra. And then as we begin to practice it, and after a few more kalpas or eon will eventually get to the deeper part of the Buddha Nature Treatise. But it is something that then gets us to the demonstration of the Mahakaruna. But we don't have to wait around. We don't have to call it and say, oh, I am now turn the corner and I am now presenting Mahakaruna. There's no thought like that. There's no thought. It is just simply that mind moment to moment demonstrates, and there's no delineation or demarcation point where one switches from karuna to Mahakaruna. It is just simply the demonstration moment to moment, and so we shouldn't be worried about that. The only thing we should be worried about is the idea in our head, I want to be a good person because I want to see the spirit in the sky. So when I die, I want to go to the spirit in the sky. Sounds like make a great song. But in any case, it's something that it isn't in this way. It's not conditional. We don't practice in this way. The practice is a demonstration. I present the Dharma as much as I can, not because I want people to think I'm wise or that I want to get to a certain level or whatever. It is just simply I care. I care about that there is suffering. And if there's suffering there and there is a possibility of alleviating it, why not? What else? What greater purpose is there with this body but to demonstrate the ways in which to remove suffering from this world? So it is in this way that we practice, and this way that the karuna turns into Mahakaruna without ever thinking about it's turning into anything. It's kind of an interesting thing because Thich Nhat Hanh once said, God is God when God doesn't think he's God. If he thinks he's God, then he's messed up. Then he becomes a jealous God, right? I don't want any other idols, false idols, or whatever. If he created everything, where the heck is he getting this false idol stuff from? He created everything. Sorry, I'm regressing from my Christian background. It's okay, I'm over it, but being a Roman Catholic, I still feel guilty about it. But in any case, the idea is that we don't think in this way. We don't think karuna or Mahakaruna or anything. It is just simply moment to moment demonstrating. And the nature of mind is in this way. There is no one that will convert to a higher level. Okay. So yeah, your questions are good, and Ian's question was a good one in terms of this. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, I see a lot of people here. I'm so happy to see different people that have showed up today, no, from all over the world. And I saw Duke Bond. I think is he still here? Oh yeah, he's still here. So he's here. Wonderful monastic from Thich Nhat Hanh's group, and I met him, and so I want to introduce him and say hello to him for coming in. I see a lot of you here, and this is I feel sorry for Sarita because I'm waiting to teach something basic, but I've kind of dumped her into the deep end of the pool. But hang in there, it will begin to make sense there in terms of all of that. And I do finally see Mei Lee there. I only see your picture on the Mindwork forum, so there's only one picture there. But you actually look much, much younger in person. So, but anyway, yeah, it's good to see you. All the people that are here, Lei Hui, Penny, all of you, Letty. I'm so happy that you come, and this practice that I'm laying out for you can really make a difference. I'm doing this so I can establish with you this resonance of this right view Dharma. This right view Dharma is so important for us to preserve and to see clearly what is the Dharma. What was the Dharma that Master Sheng wanted us to preserve? And he was very articulate in terms of that, and afraid that Dharma Drum was going to become the Nalanda University in the future of all these different kinds of schools, but nothing with Chan Buddhism. And he said that would be a pity if we lost Chan Buddhism. It is why I am very vigorous in presenting Chan Buddhism. And you see how I tie it into the sutras and to the masters and to the different schools, because it's important for us to see the richness of this Buddhism. It's not a religion. It is just how mind works. And when we understand that, it gives a purpose for this life. And that's what's important. No matter how old you are, you should figure out that you have a purpose. And I was talking to one family member recently, and he had beaten cancer, and he was going, I'm looking for, like, I know that I had to do something. There was a purpose. And I've been telling him that for like 10 years. And he's just kind of looking at it now and trying to do that. But I wish I could give him this moon. But causes and conditions are such that it's a different religion. So the thing is that it's important for us to understand, and even more so younger, that we have a purpose. We have the people such as me that are kind of it's not the end of the world, but I can see it from here, to people that are very young, and they have a lot of time. But don't waste the time. Don't waste it. It is something that I'm constantly practicing so hard to not for anything. Because think about this: when I pass away, all of this knowledge, all of this wisdom, it is not there anymore. The only way it can be done is by transmitting this wisdom to you. If I can transmit this wisdom to you with this clarity, then you can carry it forward. It is in this way that we live our life, that we see, that we understand. It's very, very important. It's very important. And sometimes it appears that the practice is very, very deep. It's okay. It's okay. Like I've said to many of you, you don't want to learn from a teacher where you say, oh, that teacher was so clear. I understood everything that teacher said. It was very clear. Then why are you learning from the teacher? If you already know what the teacher knows. My job is to put that out there a little further and a little further. Some of you who are beginning, I just put it just a little bit. Some of you have been with me for a long time. I put it there so you never can quite grasp it, but it's still interesting and you want to practice it, and you realize that it is, after a while, this is the way to go. I don't need to encourage you anymore. You already know that. To the beginners, just be patient with it. It comes in time, and just in a blink of an eye, you become a senior student. So it is just this way. We really practice sincerely for the benefit of others. This is Mahakaruna in a demonstration. I'm not saying I practice Mahakaruna, but it is what I, in my practice, practice and try to demonstrate the best possible. So anyway, thank you for listening. I wanted to kind of get that out because I've been just kind of looking at this and saying, okay, this is the things that we need to practice well.